welcome back to Wall Tactics. We're here to talk about the possible changes for the Great WAAAGH in the Orc data slate wish list. Of course, for some of us gets, time's been moving really quick. GW's been running through these pretty quick. It feels like we just had a data slate change in September, and it was right around the corner because the holidays. So we'll cover anything from changes hopefully you missed a little bit, give you a context of what possibly is to come if you've been under a rock, and then we'll talk about the hopes, the dreams, and maybe even a little bit of rumor fever dreams will be discussed today. So with that being said, let's talk about today's sponsor, the Baron of Dice. Thank you to them for allowing us to do the paint competition, as it helps our community greatly and it allows us to continue to do what we do. So thank you to Baron of Dice. Check them out in the description, as I genuinely love their dice. So let's move on to what I want to call the boss is watching. So if you didn't know, if you didn't want to watch a bunch of long videos, in short, we all know that GW loves to hit whatever's doing best, whatever's on top. So here's a quick rundown. It's Necrons, Astra Militarum, Death Watch, Custodes, Imperial Knights specifically, Eldari of different varieties, Demons, specifically Slanesh, different variations of Beakies, which I like to call, which is if you aren't up to date with Orc lingo because you're a new git, Beakies translates to Space Marine, simply. So we have Blood Angels, Dark Angels, stuff like that. And of course, good old-fashioned blue Smurfs. Then we have Necrons, such as Scatterstar, Scar. We still have Hypercrypt that's pretty solid. And then the one with, I'm having a brain fart on, the one that likes to stand its ground and be kind of tough. Phalanx something, I believe so. And then, of course, the wall itself. So we've actually been on everybody's radar due to gets like Mark Perry. Whoa, that's a freaking hilarious little picture there. Dude, it gets like more Perry running up on people and making a shakeup in the community, scaring everybody for the tactical brigade. So we're under the gun possibly today, gets so hey, YouTube, don't ban us because we said that. All right. So in short, this is probably who's going to be under the radar. What's kind of good about this is Orcs don't necessarily like some of these matchups to a certain degree. Like Necrons have been on and off difficult. Astra Militarum is unquestionably difficult for the majority of people, even in some of their base forms, if you don't have the right tools, which we recently just got equipped with. Yet that's what's specifically under the gun today that we're going to talk about. Death Watch is pretty skewed to like high-end tabletops, but still something to be considered. Custodes, just because it's like right gatekeeper. If you're going to go to an event, you're going to see like 5 dudes with Solar Spearhead. They're like, we got the Dreadnoughts, and it's like, that's cool. I do too, with my Custodes army. So if they get hit, that could become interesting. Some people say Wardens are going to get smashed, which matters for us in like our Warhorde matchup where we're really playing off one phase. What does it make Warhorde become appealing again if Tactical Brigade gets smashed? And then Imperial Knights, that's a variety of different reasons, in my opinion, why Imperial Knights is doing good. Historically, in the casual intermediate level, Knights are very gatekeeper-esque and can definitely keep Orcs down when you lack the tools or kind of the shenanigans or patience to deal with them, or you just get played into a bad mission like Purge the Foe. You're like, oh, I lost. So, yeah, we'd love to see what happens with these kids because GW doesn't really do much interesting changes for them. But, hey, Demon Slanesh, what it is. So, I think Slanesh Demons is really like the only real problem. Most of the time, Orcs tend to crump those gits. So let's move on from talking about them gits to talk about green is mean. So here's what's actually under the gun. In my opinion, from my observation, to a certain degree, so we should be cautious of being hit, of course, is Tank Busters, Shock Attack Gun combo. Specifically is all over the place, showing up 3x3 on every single list. They don't even have the kit out yet, and that's how you know something specifically strong, or GW really wants to hit something that they're like, we haven't even given you guys access to this tool yet, and y'all going crazy. So we gonna nerf that, and that's what kind of people they did with Mega Nubs, for example. Right, is a lot of people felt at the very top felt like, well, Bully Boys are kind of askew. They don't have a lot of tools or diversity. They don't have a lot of OC. They have hard matchups still, even with the 4-up Feel No Pain. It's really like a stat check that we haven't figured out yet. Yeah, GW still came and nuked us into a nerf oblivion with the Mega Nobs. And in this case, I'm not saying they're going to do it with Tank Busters, but when you see something that's being brought in multiple detachments on end and back max amount, you immediately the GW nerf bot's like, where you at? Inquisition starts. It doesn't ask questions, right? Specific questions, and the Inquisition nerfing coming to get you. So alongside that is Tactical Brigade, where some people might think, well, just nerf the mech captain enhancement. That's an auto take on every list. I could just do like they did the basic Blue Marines, where they used, I forgot the enhancements called. It's like critical 5+ is brain fart right now, but they just nerfed that to it's like 40 points or something, 45 points. I think obviously mech captains are already quite expensive, so don't got to go off there. But hey, GW has done greater weird things. Then we have Breaker Boys. I think Breaker Boys are already like right at the point cost where you don't really want to pay for a character. You're already in intermediate between knobs and mega knobs, and do I want gas? If you start making increased points on all this, on Breaker Boys, then it's like, do I even want to take them anymore? Right? I'm already in contention for other things. They could just fall off the brought up all the time kind of list. Maybe only bringing one, but in my opinion, people do well even without bringing multiple. So hey, it is what it is. Then we have what I think is a possible war boss increase. Now, war bosses did just get an increase when we came out with these changes, but considering people bring 3x3 based off knobs 3x3, Breaker Boys example, it's like, whoa, is GW gonna just tack on another 5 points to those guys since they know that's automatically increasing our list by 15 points in some cases? Hopefully not. And mega bosses got hit for no reason off the top end, so we don't want that to be, right? No, this is the hope wish list, Rodeo. This is not, I do not know anything. We're saying these are what we're wondering. These are what's under the gun observation from GW and its Inquisition nerf hammer. So yeah, and this is an early stream you get. So what's up to, of course, ECOP, my boy. Whoa, 5 wall tactic gift and membership. Speaking of, thank you, ECOP, for that. Thank you genuinely, because it's generous of you. But also thank you because it reminds me that we're actually having our first member stream on Saturday, so tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that, where it's exclusively for members. We'll start busting out those now and the additional content we've been speaking of. So the wall's been held back enough. We passed 5K. It's time to just release the Great Wall upon the universe. You know how Gaz kind of held the boys on the planet when they were amassing the ships and getting the attack moons? That's what we've been doing here at Wall Tactics. So it's time to step out. So thank you very much for that, ECOP. So that being said, another thing that I think is very much overlooked by the Warhammer community itself is how much did the wall timing really change all of the factors for us? How much did it impact us? Because like we just spoke about last week, Warhoard's been kicking off. Warhoard's been going off. It's not just because new data sheets. People have been doing great without bringing Breaker Boys. It's specifically sometimes because the wall timing, it's back to what it's always been. It's on our turn, and we get to dictate on it. People can't simply outmaneuver us because they went first. How much did that actually, giving that manipulation and of the battlefield conditions and pressure? A high-end level players understand just the intimidation factor of the wall ends up playing a factor in some turns, right? You're like, am I going to wall turn 2? No. And then the player's like, oh, I held back for that. Oh, I wonder what I'm going to do now. And then you're like, I encroached slightly more, and then I walled on turn 3. No, I held back again. Now we actually have that possibility to do these things. That's something that we never could do before. We had to let them know if they went first. It was really, really boring, and it made us weaker. So in my opinion, Warhoard is just starting to catch steam because a lot of people are like, yeah, let's get back into what we've been doing. We've even seen Bully Boys. Let's say if you're playing at a casual RTT, you're playing at a league, whatever it may be, Bully Boys, I think, are still pretty hot. You can still have a great time with having 2 walls that are at your own pace and pressure. So how much did that really change us for everybody to be so worked up about Tactical Brigade? And in reality, will we still be okay just because the WAAAGH itself really made us so strong? That's up for some people to say. That's up for you guys to portray, but I think that's true. That's what I've been seeing. You guys themselves, I've been hearing a lot about some guys go, well, I really appreciated my defensive wall. And I think as someone who played a lot of Dread Mob, I did too. But I think being able to really put on the pressure, have the enemy at bay because the possibility of the wall not be able to just innately counter it mattered a lot for us. And then we have Flash Gits and the Luas, right? Our DACA boys. Are these guys under the gun? I mean, Flash Gits have already been argued to be one of the best skirmish, kind of cheap, units that can be around for 80 points. Is someone going to tack a little point cost hike on them because they're a lot of the time they're brought in multiple different detachments? You could bring them in Warhorde, you could bring them in Dread Mob, you can bring them in Bullies, you could bring them in Tactical Brigade with no support. But I really hope they don't, because we want, as Orc players, units that don't require characters to be useful as well. We want some small units that can just play the game and get into fights and do their own thing without character support. We see some crazy Orc lists like Mork Perry's, which is 9 characters deep on the Tactical Brigade. But just even the casual, intermediate, even competitive players have been running really character heavy lists where you're going 6, 7 characters. And if you start impacting the flash kits, not only does it change what character count, but it changes how many of these units that don't require a character can be brought to a list. And then you have Ludas. Ludas were kind of seen as dog water, right? Where you're like, Hypnon 6, what's going on here? Especially in like the Codex, right? So I mean the index when the index was out, and then the Codex came out, and we were like, okay, Dread Mob's cooking. We get some sustain. We get ignore cover. But there's plenty of people that are bringing Ludas and Tactical Brigade, and they're excellent substitute if you don't have tank busters. Are they going to get hit as well? Because people are scared of simply the DACA. They don't like to see that you're bringing 3x10 into your Dread Mob list. I don't think so. But we didn't even think GW should have hit the Pain Boy and the War Boss and Mega Armor, or for in their example, the Pain Boss. That was hilarious when he went up in points too. So in this case, is GW just scared of our DACA? Because you guys know that we've been notorious for when Orcs get some DACA, we start giving problems in the grand scheme of the Orc Warhammer universe. So you're giving us tactics and DACA, like GW might be like, that's too much power. They're becoming Orcs, So who knows? Now, what we all been cooking about, we've been smelling, we've been feeling is when there's smoke, sometimes there's fire, right? Or there was. And we've been hearing about the rumors of the incoming possible WAAAGH, another WAAAGH detachment, rules and buffs. And I really don't know what to say. I have actually done rumor videos. I have no shame in that. I think we're all playing with toy soldiers that sometimes just talking about rumors and what the possibilities are with our lists is a part of the fun, let alone the possibilities of new rules can be fun, as long as you don't take them to heart and you take them with a grain of salt, and you know that it's just for talking, just for having a good time. You don't got to get upset about them. Yet with these, I was not confident that they could be true because they just seem so off the wall. And why would you give us even more power right now? It just seems odd timing. What is the EGW's motive? What's going on here? So I understand every speculation, and that's why I won't do necessarily a video specifically on it, but I will cover it because everyone else has done it, and it's pretty much unavoidable in every conversation we're speaking of with Orcs right now. As my personal opinion, let's go with the plot twist. Let's have fun with it instead of just being Nancy Dancy about what we already know. What if, when you're playing that game of telephone with your friends when you were kids, when, you told homie 1, pass the cupcake, homie 2 said, give me a cup in my cake. It was like, whoa, I didn't understand that. Is it true that in this plot twist that Cult of Speed is actually just getting a revamp, right? We're not getting a new detachment. What if it's just Cult of Speed is the one that's getting these interesting rule changes? What if Cult of Speed is the one that's getting sustained too? What if Cult of Speed buffs are applying to Walker units instead of Walker units getting a detachment specifically for them? What if those 1 CP WAAAGH turn is specifically for Cult of Speed? It could be that this actually makes sense and that GW is just trying to make some of these detachments more accessible, which again goes back to, is this even make sense? Because we have so many detachments that are viable. So for the true doubters, even this isn't good enough argument for that. So with that said, what if it's wrong? Well, if it's wrong, so that's fine. That's fine. We don't need the, at least on our end for Orcs. I don't know about, we do want the rumors from Bridgehead, and we do want the rumors for Slanesh, and we do want the rumors for Yanari Eldari to be changed and such. But for us specifically, if they're not true and we just take some nerfs, like we spoke about, what will it do? What will happen to us? On the worst end, you could say that we lose the tools that are so great into the meta right now of high toughness between the tank busters and the breaker boys, which are just, how could you take new tools from us, which GW has done in the past with Mega Knobs? So what do we do at that end? Well, that goes back to the question I brought up earlier. How much of the WAAAGH was the impact change itself? That's what we're going to have to kind of fall back onto and kind of look at again. And in my regards, in my opinion, from what I've seen, what I've played, a lot of what we already had between just knobs, ludas, gas, were already quite excellent. So we could still do really well if those tools get kind of hit, as long as they don't get overly nerfed. And then in that case, we would have to evaluate the entire meta and see who else got overly nerfed. And I just don't know if that's really possible or like really going to happen. I think GW has been acting a little more, just a little more wise, and I typically give GW no credit. Shout out to Andrew Stone for the $20 super chat. Whoa, this gets a heavy hitter. He said, new to 40K, just got me some orcs. Thanks for your expertise. You truly help us get into whoa. You gets are who's I'm specifically wanting to help, and why this channel was even created. Something we're going to talk about, continuing this conversation, is why we actually have more diversity and depth than a lot of the grand 40K community understands and accepts. So I'm glad you guys are all along for the ride, so we can all learn and have fun together. Because at the end of the day, we're just having fun with what we got, and hopefully with whatever new 40K models you just get your hand on, you aren't discouraged by anything you hear. You get stuck in. Of course, you're going to lose some teeth, but hey, you're growing back eventually. So get stuck in, lads. Whoa! Thank you for the super chat. So yeah, and I'll cover more of the chats at the end of the video. Don't worry, I'll always be doing that. I gotta talk to you guys. Shout out to the 50 gets in the chat. If I do a good job, cool. If I don't, leave me a thumbs down so I know we can reevaluate. So what I want to say is kind of the fate of the wall. Of course, I don't know this with empirical evidence, but this is just what I want to say, right? One, it's still a great time to be green. The fact that we have so many viable detachments in this game right now, the fact that people in the Discord, which is almost at 1K, shout out to the Discord and Facebook group as well, you guys are kicking off, is people are still playing with the hunt simply because it's had a couple changes. How far are we off from a little bit of squigs brought down and tank busters go up, that more just people on the casual intermediate playing at their local game stores have a great time because now they have access to some squigs. That's something that everybody should be happy about, because these detachments, from the Cult of Speed to the Hunt to Dread Mob to Warhorde, are always just a few incremental point changes. A few kind of evolutions of the meta away from becoming truly viable, and sometimes even countering things. People already are whispering of Cult of Speed counters Eldar. Well, yeah, they're fast. I can see it. And people were talking about, well, Warhorde might actually counter Emperor's Children, Fabius Bile, and other tough, even elite infantry because they fight on death. So it does come with an evolution of understanding 40K. Don't be so stuck onto what you hear is good. What is good is what sometimes subjective. We have to actually take time to evaluate. Well, good under what conditions, bro? An umbrella is good unless you're, in the, in a nice day outside and you actually need some sunlight, and it's like, well, I don't really need it right now, right? So let's take some context for that. A lot of us are still quite viable, and everybody should be excited about that and still exploring, because Tactical Brigade didn't even get explored, guys, to my understanding. I mean, we barely started seeing some awesome gets running bikers and running squigs, running orcs mobs in this Tactical Brigade. So even if they did take away the fact that you're running 3x6 of the same data sheet, I'm not really going to pity the fool. You know what I'm saying? So it's all good. And like I said, more depth than the general 40K community understands. Shout out to my favorite gets like Art of War, for example. When they talk about orcs, they know the meat and potato of orcs, no doubt about it. When it comes down to Warhorde, beast bosses, trucks, bro, I'm so into that. But then there comes the time when you're like, well, then what else? What about the other stuff? And that's what we're saying is, let's take time to evaluate the other tools, the depths of the attachments we already have, and not really be discouraged of, oh, GW is going to hit with a nerf hammer. Oh, man, these rumors are really going to make Dreadmob make no sense. It's like, hey, guys, let's just enjoy it, because we're still great in a great spot. But what I always say is hope for the best, but plan for the worst. In this case, I will hope for the best. Can we get some Walker love? I'm a fan of Killicans, Dread Mobs, Morkanauts, Gorkanauts. If it's not mobs of bullies and green tide filling the field, I just want a bunch of clanky bits, representation of Gorkamors running on the field, shooting rockets everywhere. Could they simply just get a buff, right? Let's say that GW is, you know, nice and considerate with the WAAAGH, and they say, hey, we'll take away some tank buster ability, a little bit of breaker boy ability, but we know that you drastically needed anti-tank potential. Let's assume that they said, well, we'll let walkers get a little bit of a points decrease. That'll be great. Something that we could possibly look on. Buggies are something that drastically need help data sheet wise. It would take a lot. And that's why I said, if it's not a new detachment, it could just be a revamp of Cult of Speed, because it would truly take an entire re-representation of a detachment to even make Squig buggies make sense at all, right? They're just all over the place. Then last but not least, Squigs. I'm a big fan of the Squig Hog Boys for intermediate new players. They were all over the starter box. They were all over pushed in 9th edition. And a lot of the time, kill rigs are still totally viable in Tactical Brigade and Warhorde. And we know snaggers are awesome. But what about Squigs? You just threw them off the deep end and Index Hammer once they weren't so cheap and killing everything. So I think Squigs should get a little bit of a relooked at. Just, hey, man, I think they just need one more AP GW. Not off the top to just give Squig Hog Boys an additional AP so that they can do their designated task of hunting, armor, and anti-monster tough units. And it has to make sense that they have a little bit of AP. You could even give the condition that they only have AP into these kind of units. I'll even accept that. But, you know, dropping them until they're simply too cheap for their feel no pain and defensive stat line isn't really the answer orcs are looking for either. We lack a anti-high toughness, anti-high armor save solution other than beast bosses. And in my opinion, even breaker boys and tank busters can start to fall off to 4-up invuln and anything beyond T11 with a good amount of wounds. So when you start touching that, we're going to really start to lose out on our anti-monster, anti-tank potential and kind of be wrangled back into Warhorde, where we ride the beast boss to victory all the time. And that's not what we're looking for either. So Squigs getting their actual designated task of we can actually crump the tough units that our walls on a run across would be a great help and something that we really hope to see. So with that being said, it might get right here. I see you guys. So that being said, I think there's enough said of some speculation. If we don't really know anything other than rumors and what we already know about the meta, then all we can do is observe what is most likely under the radar for GW, which we did today. What's most likely under the radar for us, which we did today. What we hope is not under the radar, yet if it does become under the radar, what we can do to change it, and what nice things GW could do to us that we can be on the lookout for, and that way we end in a positive note. So let's look at the chats right now. And of course, we have red ones go faster. Whoa! He says, hopefully get a little bit help. And the pointy ears are hit with the mega nerf chop. We just mega nerf chop. Yeah, we just like the nerf. We just like the chop, dude. You don't gotta act like you gotta give them an excuse because they're pointy ears. There's always a good time to crump a pointy ears. Let's see what some of the chat says. And shout out to the guests who was reporting today again, Andrew Stone and my boy E-Cop. Shout out to you, Zaki Chan, for being the first one in the chat alongside John T. Hilbrun. What's good, you get? Yeah, that it's an early WAAAGH today, right? So I think that's cool. Once in a while, we get that off for my friends across the pond, as we like to say around here, wherever you gets may be. Yeah, walkers need more survivability. I think they could just come down. I think kill Death Dreads being 8 wounds is kind of weird. That's a little bit too little. But the real thing, allow them to have 3-man units of Death Dreads. Yeah, we all miss that, right? I have so many Death Dreads on my shelf. I have like enough. And we can bring more. So see, Gargantuan. You know what? For the Gargantuan Squigoth, what I actually want is allow me to do artist nails on that thing again, okay? Because I love that. And we need Docker Dreads. Funny enough, it's funny how our Docker Dreads just like from AP too, though, sometimes, right? Custom Mega Blaster being -2 AP when everything has cover and 2-up armor save isn't directly a solution. So I wouldn't say that. But GW sometimes doesn't know the difference. They just go, hey, it's a strong weapon that has high damage. Work with it. Which we will, because we're orcs. So anything else to say? Like I said, if you're new, we're going to do a members stream this Saturday. So, that's new for us. So we're going to be doing that, coming out with new content, which is also coming out since we passed 5K. And shout out to our paint competition and everything else for the Discord, which of course, any of the amazing lists and players you've seen or heard of, probably floating around their Discord somewhere so you can interact with them. And of course, I float around the Discord so you can interact with me. Of course, on Facebook as well. I'm not on as much, but feel free to DM me. So in the meantime, there's always one thing to keep in mind. It's hello to you guys and over the pond. Exactly, Hoover from France. Whoa, yeah, that's exactly what I was looking forward to today when I was there. Because I was like, should I record this and then let it go on? I was like, no, we're gonna go live even. So heck yeah, exciting to see. So one thing to keep in mind is don't cross our wall because we'll knock your teeth out. Whoa.